Today I want to talk about what to do when IVF fails, because I don't think this is talked about enough, and it is a real thing. Often when women are struggling with fertility, and I felt like this too when I was struggling with fertility with my first child. It took me almost 2 years to get pregnant with my first child. If you're not familiar with my fertility story, in the back of every woman's head, there's this thought that if I'm not able to get pregnant naturally, it's somewhat okay because then I can still do IVF, right? I can still do IVF and become a mother. But what happens is when that hope fails, women are often left hopeless. And my goal is for no woman to ever feel hopeless about her fertility or her reproductive health, or quite honestly, anything. And if you've gotten to the stage where you're already doing IVF, what I've often found is that women feel like they are broken, right? That their bodies aren't working, their bodies aren't doing what it's supposed to do, and they feel broken. And that is hard. But I'm here to tell you that you are not broken, and your body is not broken. Your body is actually supporting you, which I will go into later. But I just want to start off by saying that you are not broken, and you are able to get pregnant if you take the right steps. So I just want to start off with a trigger warning that some things I say may feel sensitive. And my goal is always to come at this conversation from a place of compassion, but I also want to be open and honest with you because that's the best way that I can support you. And in doing so, I'm going to invite you and ask you to look at your health and your fertility in a way that you might not have thought of or might not have been presented to you before. And sometimes that can be triggering to women. So before we jump right in, I just want to reiterate that if you've tried IVF and things aren't going the way that you expect them to, if things aren't working out for you, there is still hope. There is still a way. There is still hope that you will become a mother, because I've seen it happen and I know it can happen, and I know it can happen for you. And whenever I say this, I can see the wheels turning in women's head. I can feel it over this screen, that you're thinking to yourself, well, yes, that might be true for another woman, but how about me? I have high FSH and my AMH is 0.0001 and I have painful periods. There's no chance that I'll be able to get pregnant, right? And my answer to that is that you don't get to be that golden unicorn. You don't get to be that person who doesn't get pregnant. You don't get to win the lottery, right? All of these things that you are thinking about are reversible. Numbers can change, symptoms can change, everything is changeable. So I just want you to keep that in the back of your head throughout this entire episode. So if you've turned to IVF because you are struggling to get pregnant naturally, that's where we need to go back to. If your body's not able to get pregnant naturally, there is a reason and a root cause for that. And the reason and root cause, it might be in a lab test, it might not be in the lab test, but there is something going on there. And to really simplify it, if you're not able to get pregnant, it's because your body doesn't have the resources. Your body doesn't have the energy to support both you, keeping you and your body alive, and also keeping another baby alive. And what I often see happen is IVF will fail because your body still doesn't have the energy, right? We can try to force follicles to grow. We can try to force implantation, but what we can't force is our body having enough energy to be able to withstand a pregnancy. A part of IVF that isn't frequently talked about is women who, they go through IVF, they go through the hormones, but they're not even able to get eggs, right? They try to stimulate their egg production and they don't even get eggs. That can be the most devastating and disappointing part of the process for a lot of women. And I want to explain to you why that is happening. When you take IVF medication to stimulate egg growth, that medication isn't really giving you anything, right? It's asking your body to do more, right? It's asking your body to use the resources to grow multiple eggs at once. And here's the thing, your body might not have those resources. In Chinese medicine, we mainly consider that yin substance. Yin is sex hormones such as estrogen and progesterone. Yin is thick fluids in our body, and it's yin that really supports that first half of our cycle, that follicular phase, to help grow a follicle into an egg. And what the IVF medication is doing is trying to get a lot of follicles to grow at once. Now, if your body barely has the energy to grow one follicle, it might not have the energy to grow 10 follicles. And that's when this step fails. When your body doesn't have the resources to grow a lot of eggs at once, which, as devastating as it can seem, it's your body's way of supporting you. Because those resources, that yin substance, that thick fluid in your body, is also used to support so many other parts of your body. It's used to support not just your menstrual cycle, but your bone health, it protects your organs, it protects your brain. That thick fluid is needed in every aspect of your body. And what your body is telling you, if you're not able to stimulate a lot of eggs during IVF, is that it needs the resources. It's not going to use those resources to build a lot of eggs to grow another human because you need to hold on to those resources. Your body is trying to save you. And again, I know it doesn't always feel good and we don't always want to look at it this way, but your body is always supporting you. It might not be in the way that you want it to. It might not be what you wish for, what you hope for, but your body is always supporting you. And so what we want to do is figure out why you don't have enough resources, right? Why aren't things working for you? And how can we rebuild those resources in your body so that whether you try naturally or you go through IVF, your body has the support it needs to keep both you safe and to grow another human. And this is the same case whether your IVF did not work because you couldn't stimulate enough eggs. It's the same whether it didn't work because you couldn't get enough embryos because of egg quality. It's the same idea if you tried to do implantation and implantation just didn't stick, right? It's the same idea that your body doesn't have the energy to keep both you and another growing human being alive, and your body is always going to choose you. But here's like the beautiful and the magical thing is that we can always build back those resources. And to do so, we need to first discover why are we draining these resources? And then how can we build them back through diet, lifestyle, and mindset? And before I get into that, I just want to address a question I get very frequently, which is, like I mentioned at the beginning, but I have high FSH and I have low AMH, which means there's no chance of me to get pregnant, right? Which is likely what your doctor told you, that it's almost near impossible to get pregnant if you have a high FSH and low AMH. And my answer to that is that those numbers can change. Now, the reason your FSH is high is because the feedback loop of hormones in your body. If your ovaries are not producing enough sex hormones such as estrogen, your pituitary gland will respond by then signaling more FSH to help get those ovaries to create more sex hormones, right? It's a loop between your pituitary gland and your ovaries. So the fact that your FSH is high is just telling us your ovaries' ability to produce sex hormones is low. But again, that can change, right? Once we give our body the resources it needs to create that yin, to create those sex hormones, our ovaries can do their job and our FSH can go down. And AMH is just a complete bullshit number that it's like astonishing that it's used in the medical world. AMH has no correlation to your body's ability to get pregnant. AMH should only be used in the case of IVF, but often it's used in the wrong way, right? So often what will happen is women find out they have low AMH. They're told they should do IVF, even though statistically, through research, that makes no sense. Your AMH has no correlation to your ability to get pregnant naturally. But if you have low AMH at the moment, and then you go to do IVF, right? You have low ovarian reserves, which is what AMH is telling you, and then you try to do IVF, you're basically trying to take eggs out of an empty basket. That is almost one of the last things you want to do. If you have low AMH, you either want to try naturally or you want to try to raise your AMH before going into IVF. And both of the things we're going to do the same way, and I will get into that. So at the very core of it, if IVF is not working for you, if natural fertility is not working for you, IVF isn't working for you, it's because your body doesn't have the energy. It doesn't have the resources to keep both you alive and to keep another growing human alive. If you think about it, like a car can't run without gas, oil, and electricity. Your body can't run without gas, oil, and electricity. It's just our bodies, we call that something else. We call that in Chinese medicine, it's yin substances, it's thick fluids, it's sex hormones, it's blood, which helps regulate our menstrual cycle and helps support our placenta when we are pregnant. And it's qi, it's energy, right? Those are our resources. Those are our gas, our electricity, and our oil. And without those, we can't stay alive and we can't grow another human being. So the fact that things aren't working for you is a sign that you need to build those resources. But in order to build those resources, you first need to examine your life and understand where you are draining those resources. More often than not, what I see in my practice, women are depleted not because they're not eating well or they're not eating the right food, although that definitely plays a part into it, but because they are draining those resources other places. I see this in my practice comes up a lot is women really stressed out at work, right? They work 12 hours or they work really weird hours or they just have a really stressful job and they want to get pregnant. They're using both this masculine energy and hoping for this feminine energy, and it all comes from the same bucket. You can't be depleting your body and mind and soul through work or through exercise. That's another big one that I see: women exercising too much, women trying to lose weight when they're trying to get pregnant, women running marathons when they're trying to get pregnant. And now some women can do that, but some women can't because they just don't have the resources, right? And if you are struggling to get pregnant, it's that your body needs to build resources. So you need to stop doing these draining activities. I always recommend that everyone takes out a journal and at the end of every day, write down, where did I drain my energy? Where was I pushing? Where was my adrenaline increased, right? Was it through the run I went on, or was it through the high intensity workout? Or was it with that conversation with my boss? Or was it running around with my toddler? Was it that I was just really angry at my mother from a phone call all day, right? Where are you draining your energy? And that's where you need to focus your attention. It's not just about building resources, it's stopping them from leaking. Right? It'd be like putting gasoline into a car that has a leak. It's not going to do anything. We need to stop the leak before we put the gasoline in. And if you are dealing with a lot of stress and anxiety and stored suppressed emotions such as fear, worry, and anxiety, that is extremely depleting on your body. If you want to understand more about how stress and anxiety and all those emotions affect your body and your fertility, I recommend checking out podcast episode number 18, I believe, where I talk all about stress and fertility and how stress affects your body. But for the purposes here today, let's just leave it as stress is depleting. Stress is like your gasoline leaking right out of you. Another really easy way to put it is that our sex hormones, estrogen and progesterone, and our stress hormones, which are cortisol and adrenaline, they come from the same bucket. So if we are using a lot of stress hormones, adrenaline and cortisol throughout the day because we're stressed or we're worried or we're anxious, there's no resources left in our bucket to create those sex hormones that we need for a healthy menstrual cycle and a pregnancy. And I'll be honest, I'm not a big fan of managing stress because managing is like putting a Band-Aid on something. And when it comes to our physical body, it's really hard to quote unquote manage emotions. We really need to get to the core of what is triggering you, why you're being triggered, and how can we fix that? Right? Like, where did this first start from you? You know, something most people don't understand is that when we're stressed or anxious in the moment, it's not coming from that present moment. It's coming from our past experiences that create our perception of the present moment. It's always our perception that's creating the stress, anxiety, worry, or fear. So it's really taking a look at your history, what has gone on in your life, what is going on in your life, and rewiring it. And that's what I take women through in my practice when I work with them one-to-one. It's also what I will guide you through how to do in my monthly membership, which I'm really excited about because this is really the core of my work is in that membership. It takes you through how to really identify your triggers, how to rewire them in your physical body and in your mind, and then how to support and nourish your body through diet, food, lifestyle, and exercise. Because everyone can be their own healer. You just need the information, and maybe no one ever taught that to you, but that's what I want to teach to you. So once you figure out what's draining your energy, like right, where is that leak in your system? We then need to fill back your system, right? We need to then fill up the engine with gasoline or electricity, right? We can be eco-conscious as well. And the best way to do that is through food. And with food, there's two things we want to keep in mind. One, we really need to nourish our digestion and our digestive system. If our body is not able to digest and absorb the nutrients from the food that we eat, we might as well be eating McDonald's and Taco Bell every day, right? The food that we eat is not going to matter if we're not digesting and absorbing the nutrients from it. So our digestive system is super important. And for that, the base thing that everyone can do is start to eat warm cooked food. Warm cooked food is easier for your body to digest. And because it's easier for your body to digest, you'll be able to assimilate more nutrients from it. In Chinese medicine, it's the energy of our spleen that's responsible for our digestion. And when we're talking about digestion in Chinese medicine, it's not just digesting our food, it's digesting our thoughts, digesting all the information that comes at us every day. And our spleen can often get really run down from that, right? And the energy of our spleen is also responsible for holding a baby in place. Our spleen holds our organs in place, it holds blood in place, and it holds a baby in place. So nourishing the energy of our spleen is vitally important for your fertility. And the best way to do that is through warm cooked foods. Cold raw foods will damage the energy of your spleen. And once you have your digestion in check, which also means you're having a bowel movement at least once a day, but not more than 3 times a day, then you need to focus on what you're eating. And eating doesn't need to be complicated. It can be complicated, but it doesn't have to be. The basis of the food that you want to eat is eating warm cooked whole foods, which means getting rid of the packaged crap, throwing out the chips and the popcorn and the cookies and the low-fat yogurt, the low-fat cheese, the low-fat everything, the fat-free, the sugar-free, and coming back to real whole foods, which means eating the chicken breast, eating the chicken thigh, eating the chicken leg, eating steak, eating fatty fish, right? Really eating these nutrient-dense foods. We want to nourish our body and not deprive or deplete it. Now, when I say these things, yes, like enjoy a bag of chips every once in a while. We always need space and room in our life for joy, and joy is a big part of fertility. But on a daily basis, you want to focus on eating warm cooked whole foods, right? Things that grow in the ground or feed off the ground. Getting saturated fat in your diet, getting fat in your diet. A lot of women I find avoid fat. It's this rhetoric of the 90s and the early 2000s that fat will make you fat or fat is bad for you. And that is absolute bullshit. Our bodies need cholesterol. Our bodies need fat to create sex hormones such as estrogen and progesterone. And if you're not giving your body that fat, your body doesn't have any substance to create the sex hormones you need for fertility. Also, a lot of us live a very dehydrating diet, right? We eat a lot of dry foods, a lot of crackers, chips, dry toast. And you really want a moistening diet, things like soups and stews and cooked grains, really hearty, beautiful food, because that's the food that's really going to support you. Your body needs hydration to support literally every aspect of your body. Hydration is highly underrated in Western medicine. We need hydration to support our muscles, our joints, our reproductive organs, every organ in our body, our brain. We need fluid, and we need thin fluid to support the creation of blood and to support the creation of sex hormones when it comes to fertility. So really hydrating your body through soups and stews and cooked grains and really nourishing food. And I just want to close this out by saying that if you've gone down the path of IVF and it hasn't worked for you, I just want to reiterate this again, that it doesn't mean that your body's failed. It doesn't mean you did anything wrong. And it also doesn't mean that you can't get pregnant naturally. And it doesn't mean that you can't get pregnant through IVF, right? I believe you always have choices. You choose what you want to do and what's right for you and your body, but know that it is possible when you make the right aligned changes. And those changes are closing up the leak of where you're draining the energy and then filling up your engine with oil, right? Really nourishing your body. I really don't believe anyone should have to do it alone. When I was struggling with my own fertility journey, I reached out to people. I had resources, right? And that's why I do what I do today. So if you need help or support, please reach out. I offer one-to-one support, virtual and in person. And as I mentioned earlier, I created my membership, Femergy Fertility Framework membership, that includes my exclusive access to my course, my fertility course, that will guide you through everything you need to know to really nourish and optimize your body for fertility, with support along the way. There's a community aspect to it where you can gain support from other women going through the same journey. And then also I will be jumping into the community to support you because I'm big on support, right? I think everyone should get support. And there are monthly group calls where you can get one-on-one support in a group setting. As always, if you have any questions, please reach out, and thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in to Their Chicos. I hope today's episode helped you see the connection between your emotions and physical health a little more clearly. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with anyone who could benefit from this conversation. And remember, true healing starts from within. Let's keep exploring that journey together. See you next time.